$0. That's how much it costs now to upload your selfie to Google Gemini and generate a professional studio lid headshot with Nano Banana. The worst part is, it genuinely competes with what most photographers deliver using $10,000 to $15,000 of studio gear and years spent to acquire the skills. Now, if you feel the overwhelm of all the photography is dead videos, your Instagram feed is filled with AI experts, and everyone else seems to know how to navigate this new reality, let me show you why everyone is just plain wrong. There is one specific group of photographers that will not only survive this AI revolution, but thrive, and it has nothing to do with genre or gear. Now, the main reason all this panic among photographers is booming is because people are still convinced we're in the business of selling images. And there's this quote that perfectly describes the situation. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. So this is how I think about portrait photography business, and it challenges what most photographers know for sure. I call it the photography iceberg. The top part of the iceberg is the results, your final images. This is what most photographers focus on, advertise, try to improve, and this is the part AI now threatens. Now, it's easy to think you're supposed to be competing on this part, but that's exactly what gets you into trouble. And to be honest, we've been in this situation more than once already. Now look at this. In 2010, film photographers thought the industry was over because DSLR showed up. The barrier to entry collapsed, and those who sold good exposure in film development or focusing skills went out of business. Then DSLRs got replaced by mirrorless. Easier to focus, easier to shoot, more people flooding the market. Another crisis. Then the iPhone. Now your neighbor and their mom have a camera that shoots better than what professionals had 10 years ago. The barrier lowered even further. And AI is just the latest tool that commoditizes the final image. It makes the output cheaper, faster, higher quality, and more accessible. Exactly the same as all the previous cycles. So does that mean the top part, a good image, is not important? Actually, it's quite the opposite. That's the bare minimum now that AI entered the pitch. What I'm trying to say is that a good image, just like the tip of the iceberg, doesn't happen on its own. It's simply a byproduct of the structure underneath it. And while everyone is trying to place a neat little iceberg tip on the surface of the water just to see it drown instantly, we have the opportunity to build it from the ground up and watch it endure all the future storms. So what's hiding under the surface? Two layers, actually. The middle one is client experience. Now, you might be offering your clients coffee or putting on some music they like, but that's just small puzzle pieces, and we need to look at the big picture first. The vast majority of people are not comfortable in front of the camera. To them, it's like sitting in a dentist's chair. They come in anxious, they execute commands, they pray for the best and hope they won't have to come back anytime soon. The client has no clue what's going on or what's about to happen, and photographers rarely make them a part of the process. Now, it might not look like a big deal as long as you take technically sound images, but if you get that client experience part wrong, it creates a huge problem 3 steps downstream. And the worst part is, the photographer usually has no idea they're causing it. First, the photographer thinks the client is buying images, so logically they focus on the technical side to produce the best pictures they can. Second, when the photographer focuses on the technical, they fail to notice a human being in front of them and don't empathize with how the client feels. Third, the client feels abandoned in the process, anxious, focusing on previous bad experiences and their insecurities. Now all that results in images that feel lifeless, generic, and staged. And the subject usually looks awkward. Exactly the opposite of what the photographer intended. And that happens because most photographers treat a portrait session as a one-way service instead of a two-way collaboration. And even though the photographer knows what they're doing, they fail to make the client relaxed, invested, and excited about the process, simply due to lack of communication. Now think about what happens when a photographer is fully present for the client. When you stop solving light ratios or figuring out camera settings and start being truly interested in the human being in front of you, the client feels genuinely seen. And then something shifts. They start to trust you enough to pull the mask a bit. And what your camera captures is the person underneath. The version they rarely show to anybody, because feeling seen and accepted is extremely rare. Now AI will never touch this layer, because the layer only exists when two human beings interact with each other. The connection alone already starts to build the top layer. The images start to mean something to your client. They see their true selves in your pictures, and that's what makes the images unique and irreplaceable. Now, if you've been doing this for some time, you're probably thinking about the elephant in the room. Who's gonna take care of all the technical stuff if all you do is talk to your client? And the bottom layer addresses exactly that. Now, this part might not feel very exciting, but it holds everything else in place. And if you're doing it right, it's completely invisible even to the client. This is your process. The client experience doesn't happen by accident and requires some serious mental bandwidth. You have to be fully present and all your focus and attention has to be on your client. That is only possible if you can technically produce quality images without actively thinking about it. So how do you do that? There are two parts: skills and homework. First, you have to be like a fish in the water with all things technical. Exposure triangle, f-stops, inverse square law, know all the modifiers and lighting setups like the back of your hand. Second, you have to move most of the decisions from the set back to pre-production. You basically have to do your homework and have plan A and plan B for everything that you're gonna do on set. Now, why is that important? Because running a portrait session is just a constant stream of problems you're trying to solve in real time. And these are the only two things that actually reduce the strain that problem solving causes. If you know by heart that increasing the depth of field from f2.8 to f5.6 requires you to bump the ISO from 100 to 400, you don't have to waste your conscious energy and time solving it. Or if you know how to position and feather the octabox for a perfect Rembrandt, you won't have to think why the catch lights are not visible. You'll just move the light stand while talking about the things your client is passionate about. And similarly, if you learn to create a proper mood board before the photo shoot, decide on the color palette, lighting setup, poses, wardrobe, backdrops, and everything else, you'll just save a ton of energy on set that then can be directed towards your client. So how does the market look like from this new perspective? The photographers that will get obliterated by AI are the ones that operate only at the top layer. They're still marketing the results. Last week I saw an ad where the headline was something like, "Images better than what you shot on your iPhone." That photographer is now competing directly against a free AI tool and doesn't even know it. Then there are photographers who have only the middle layer down and never build a foundation underneath. The clients love them, the sessions feel great, but the lighting is different every time, the editing takes forever, all the processes are inefficient, and the results swing between great on a good day and below average on a bad one. These guys run a hobby and not a business. Then on the flip side, you have the rock-solid technicians that treat the session as a production line, focusing on the bottom layer only. Great exposures, clean retouching, efficient workflow, but the client walks out feeling like they just sat through a procedure. The images are technically flawless, and yet nobody is rushing to recommend the experience. That's actually where I was for many years. Probably top 10 technically in my country, not even in the top half financially. And only when all three layers work together, your process is down to a T, and all your attention on your client, do you build something AI can touch? So what can you do about it? First, in your next photo shoot, I want you to pay attention to one thing. Where is your mental energy going? Are you solving hundreds of micro problems one after another? Or are you thinking about the person, about what they just said, about the tension in their shoulders, or whether they feel comfortable, about the journey you're taking them on? Just be honest with yourself. If 90% of your attention is going toward gear and settings, and 10% toward the client, the image might look fine technically, but the experience is forgettable. And forgettable experiences don't build 6-month waiting lists. The goal is to flip that ratio. Not by caring less about the technical side, but by building a process so solid that the technical side becomes invisible. So that when a client is standing in front of you, 90% of your brain is free to do one thing AI will never do. Second, start looking at what other processes are weighing down your workflow. The most common sticking point I see is image editing. If that's you, watch this video next, where I show you how editing on easy mode actually improves your image quality while freeing up hours you can use to book more photo shoots. Third, I've put together a free 30-day email course that walks you through exactly how to start building this foundation. One short lesson a day covering how light actually behaves, how to prepare so your sessions run themselves, and how to create the kind of experience that turns first-time clients into repeat ones. Link is in the description. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.